Welcome back once again to your number one source for information, education, inspiration on the most underrated career opportunity in business today. That is a career in the insurance industry and financial services. You're listening to You Should Get a License, the podcast. And I'm Rod Powell. And today we have someone who is very special, a true innovator and visionary in our space, someone who is really I'll say a king, just expanding the culture, in insurance, in financial services. He's the co-founder of the Society of Black Agents, AKA SOBA, the head president of Noble Insurance Consulting and Brokerage down in Atlanta, Georgia. But today, tuning in from Houston, Texas. So I want to give it up and say thank you so much to the one and only T. Priester. T, how you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. Hey, I appreciate that intro, man. I mean, you got me hyped now.
Right.
I usually hate the intro, doing an interview. I mean, I'm sure you're the same way. We do enough interviews where, people gas you up, but that's dope, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me tonight.
Absolutely, man. Hey, look, it's all the truth, it's all the truth.
Appreciate it.
I want to just chat and I'll get into, just how I was introduced to you, at Black Friday, through ACO and through Ngozi and introduced to SOBA and all the things that you guys are doing. But first, before we get into that, really for this platform, we speak to individuals who may be new in the industry, maybe they're seasoned, making some transitions, or just people who really want to kind of get a peek behind the veil and learn about the different opportunities that are out there from a real life perspective, people who have been there, done that, not just in the recruiting room. So can you give us an idea of your market space, your market segment? I know Noble's full service. What do you specialize in and what are you working on a day-to-day in this financial industry?
Yeah, so Noble, we say we're a solution-based insurance brokerage, which you would think is common sense, right? I mean, insurance is there to create a solution to a problem, whether it's replacing income, preparing you for, you passing away and making sure your debts are taken care of. So, what we do is we work with individuals, families, and small businesses to protect and grow wealth through life insurance. And, I got about 20 dedicated agents that work our full service portfolio. I work a few tech-based platforms like Ethos, where I got about 60 agents over there. But I mean, realistically, my goal is to change the conversation around insurance in our community specifically.
Yeah.
Right. We have a lot of misinformation when it comes to insurance in our community right now. The hot thing is, be your own bank. We know infinite banking and IULs have been around and popping since the 80s, but unfortunately, sometimes, we catch up on things late and we try to catch up and take shortcuts and end up in a bad situation. So, my focus has always been just changing the conversation in our community when it comes to how life insurance works. It's more than just burial. IULs are a great product. Whole life's a great product. I ain't one of those people that's like, term is bad and, you got to go whole life. Like everybody has a need that this product can fit, disability, whole life, term, IULs, annuities. So we just try to get out in our community and have conversations so people understand the full scope of how insurance works.
Absolutely, man. And thinking of, there's two things that you said, just in describing, where you really specialize and add that value. You talked about really the educational component, explaining, how things work and what options you can do. And also you mentioned, for our community specifically, because we often find ourselves, kind of behind the eight ball, when you have, other, whether it be, families or groups or companies that have been leveraging these things for years. And in certain cases with certain products, maybe even a century or
right.
two, but, for us, we might be finding out just about these things right now. Being an agency that really has a community focus, and I want to kind of go back into Black Friday, because that's where I first met you. You were on the panel, at Black Friday down in Atlanta, with Ngozi and SOBA, and I think the Atlanta insurance professionals down there as well. How important do you feel at this particular time it is, for, Black insurance industry professionals to really kind of embrace, this call for generational wealth education out there?
I mean, it's extremely important. I work with a lot of younger people who now are very interested in finding out ways to, build generational wealth. I love that the generations that are coming behind us, I was born in the 70s. So, we really didn't talk finance a lot in my household, but with social media and so many things and ways you can make money on the internet, young people are saying, well, how do I really grow wealth? They don't just want to randomly be chasing stuff. They're looking for strategy. So, for us, just being able to have those conversations and lead them down the right path. I always tell young people, like, it's great to have huge dreams where you want to have a multi-million-dollar business. But the easiest way to obtain wealth, one of the easiest ways to obtain wealth is through life insurance, right? Because you may have a 20-year plan to get your family on the map and create generational wealth, but God forbid something happened to you before you get to execute that 20-year plan. If you got an insurance policy in place, as long as the information is there, your family can carry on that legacy without you there. You funded that legacy to continue without you. So I always tell people, regardless of if you come from money or not, the quickest way to leave money for your family is through life insurance.
Right. That's right. Tax-free asset, can't
yes.
really do it.
Yeah.
I asked you about that because, in our industry, we have a lot of different market segments, that we can add value in. I mean, we have property and casualty, you have, whether it be personal line, home and auto, you got commercial lines, you have Medicare spaces, you got supplemental benefits, you got employee benefits, you have all of these lines and I feel like, life insurance is a market segment that, although it's crucially important, it kind of, it kind of gets, I'm not saying it gets dismissed, but it kind of gets pushed to the side a little bit, not as much of a priority in the conversation, maybe as it should be. Is that your experience? I mean, I know that you're multi-market, so has that been your experience?
Yeah, it has. Like I said, unless it's, a hot topic around a specific product, a lot of times most people's conversation around life insurance is about death, right? Nobody wants to talk about death. Now, I will say that COVID did get a lot more people focused on their mortality, because when you got, hundreds of thousands of people dying all around you, you start to think, okay, maybe I'm not invincible. So we saw a spike in sales and people willing to have a conversation then. But yeah, a lot of times when you initially approach people and you want to have that conversation about life insurance, they're like, man, I ain't thinking about dying, miss me with that. And they don't want to talk about it. So you have to expand the conversation and say, look, that's just one component of it. There's so many other things that you can do with life insurance. Like you say, there's a whole PNC side where, you're talking about properly protecting your home and your auto and your business. And, a lot of times, again, not being informed causes us to buy the wrong products. I think there was a statistic I read the other day that said 90% of people that have insurance are underinsured, wrongly insured, misinsured. I mean, it's just a mess out there. So whether you're talking about life, you're talking about health, you're talking about your car, fortunately, when it comes to your auto, most states mandate you have insurance. So we don't even think about it. But what's more important than your car? You know what I'm saying? Is making sure you create a legacy of wealth for your family through the other products that we offer. And even when it comes to those products, I think a lot of times people buy based on price and end up messing themselves up, right? If you got a $300,000 home, why do you want a $20 a month, homeowner's policy? That makes absolutely no sense. And I got a business partner who went through something here last year, and I think she was paying like $1,100 a month for her homeowners. So people like, yo, you bugging, like $1,100, but her house burned down. And because she had the policy that she had, she was pretty much able to build her house from the studs up. Where if she would have had that $20 policy, she would have been tail out. You know what I'm saying? So, it's not always about buying the cheapest or, the commercials you see the most. It's really about connecting with an agent that can educate you on what works. Even if cost is, a point of contention, sometimes we got to build the value so people understand, yeah, it may be worth you paying $1,100 or $700 or whatever it is, because if you don't, you're going to end up paying in the end.
How do I get more time? If you're a business owner, that's the question that you're asking yourself. How can you manage the business, generate the revenue, do your administrative tasks, run your social media, run your website, manage your calendar, book your appointments, generate your leads, and continue to be the face of your brand? You need to hire a virtual assistant. In fact, you need Better Business virtual assistants because you need someone who can help you with the social media, the website, the administrative tasks, managing the calendar, making those calls, setting those appointments, making sure that your business is running smoothly so that you can do best, and that's be the face of your brand and focus on those revenue generating opportunities and activities. How do I know? Because this video that you're watching right now was actually made by a virtual assistant. So if you want to take your business to a 10x growth of productivity so that you can enhance your efficiency, schedule a time by clicking the link below and you can talk to a high quality, high efficiency virtual assistant that can help you get to where you want to go. Peace. Absolutely, absolutely. You mentioned that connecting with an agent, especially one that can kind of direct you and give you some options. And I want to come back to that because I want to talk about the differences in running an agency that is independent, versus maybe being in a more captive environment. But I want to double back before I even go there. I want to go all the way back. You talked about kind of coming up, being born in the 70s. What was your dream job coming up? Let's go back 10-year-old T Priester coming up. What were you thinking about doing?
Yeah, man. I mean, real talk. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. So it wasn't even about a career. It was about money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And growing up in the inner city, you don't have a lot of options, right? You're going to rap, you're going to sing, you're going to be an athlete, you're going to be an actor. And I had none of those skills. I had a very short-lived on the corner battle rap career that, didn't go nowhere. So it's like, all right, like how else is there to make money? We know drugs don't last. That's a hot money. That's money now, dead tomorrow, jail tomorrow. So that wasn't really, something I looked to build wealth towards. And I don't know, man, I can't really say there was a path to wealth that I looked at or a career that I tied to money. I got through high school and, I said, well, somewhere I heard accountants make good money. So I said, all right, well, let me go be an accountant. So I went to school. I went to JUCO for like 2 semesters. I'm like, I'm done with school. I don't want to do that. Then, I'm like, well, maybe I want to do something different. Let me go chase a career in political justice, criminal justice. So I went back for a couple more months and didn't do that. And then I ended up going to the Marine Corps. And, in the Marine Corps, I think that's where I found my footing because, I was forced to grow up. This was, a few years after high school. I had, tried a couple of things, failed at a couple of things. And I don't even know how I hooked up with the recruiter. This recruiter is slick. I mean, he approached me and next thing I know, I'm in the gym doing push-ups and running around with everybody else. And, less than 4 months later, I'm swearing in for the Marine Corps. So I didn't really have, any career paths that I looked at to, build my future. I just kind of fell into the Marine Corps. And then after that, got into sales and that eventually led me into insurance.
Got you. Now, how long were you in the Marine Corps?
4 years.
4 years. Hey, thank you for your service, by the way, as well.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So Marine Corps, you coming out of Marine Corps, kind of what was it something that you did while you were serving that said, maybe I'll go into a sales arena? What kind of sparked that? What kind of sparked that as the path? So
interestingly enough, I didn't finish my whole tour, right? Okay. I got a knee injury when I was in the military. And, the Navy doctors, a lot of them were students when, you're in the military. The Navy doctors are students that are going through the Navy to get their, become doctors. So a lot of surgeries are performed by students. So, I was scared because, everybody's like, oh, they're going to cut off the wrong leg, they're going to amputate you or whatever. And what happened is I just had a really bad case of tendonitis. And tendonitis is just something that needs a rest. But when you're in the military, you're not resting. You're running every day. You're doing PT, you're humping, you know what I'm saying? So I just never got the rest. So I got an option where I sat down and they were like, look, you can either, finish your tour with us doing surgery, or you can get out and get a pension. Well, I'm like, well, that's a no-brainer. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Pay me, let me get out. So I took my money, I got out. And because I got out a little early, I wasn't really prepared for what was next. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So I got out, and the easy transition was I went to security. You know, I was a former Marine. I went in for communications, but once you get in the service, they put you wherever they want to. So I ended up being in the Provost Marshal's Department, which is an MP, for a little bit. So it was easy for me to get a job with security. I hated security, whack hours, you know, just doing stuff I really didn't like. And I came across this sales position. It was route sales. So, you know, when you go to a restaurant, you have the light linen and the napkins and all that stuff. My
Mhm.
job was to go in and negotiate the prices. Like, you know, we want to take over your linen for the restaurant. We'll offer you X amount of napkins or whatever. And then I would go to the mechanic shops and do the rags and different things like that. So I really enjoyed the art of negotiating, right? I can go in and based on how good I was at my job, I can make some decent money. So I
Yeah.
did that for a few years. And I think that kind of gave me an appetite for sales. And I just kind of bounced around for a while trying to find out what the best fit was. And again, eventually, you know, it led me to insurance.
Mm, mm. So Marine, so I guess with the Marines, obviously you know, there's a, there's a regiment, there's a process, you know, discipline. I mean, work ethic is going to be crazy based on the schedule. Coming out, you basically just transfer those skills, you know, into the route, and you just combine it with the negotiations. And you know, obviously, that sounds like a recipe for success. So taking that, I mean, these are all qualities that I find in our business are necessary
Mm-hmm.
to win, right? It's like you got to have the work ethic, you got to have the dedication, you got to be consistent. You have to be able to negotiate. You have to be able to communicate. You have to be a communicator to talk. You have to be able to talk to people. How did you end up finding your way to the insurance industry from the sales route?
Yeah, so again, I'm old school. This was back in the day where you looked in the newspaper jobs. You know, there was
Mm,
no it was no Google and
right.
Indeed and all that
I
kind of
remember
stuff.
that too. I'm just like I was around when you were looking at the newspaper circling. Yes.
I was flipping through the local newspaper, and you know, I just started focusing on sales. And you know, there's a lot of sales opportunities out there that aren't. I'm not gonna say they're not legit, but I mean it's just trash. So I had to weed my way through what a good sales position looked like without a degree. Right. I didn't have a degree. I had some, you know, a little bit of experience from what I was doing. I had my military background, and insurance just kept popping up. I kept seeing sales jobs, and when I would call, they were real slick with the wording. So I didn't know it was insurance until I called up. And then, you know, after you get through the gatekeeper, they kind of break down what the position looks like. And I was like, all right, well, I keep seeing this. Let me at least see what this thing is talking about. And you know, I went to an interview, a group interview, and this guy was up there like rah and talking about all this money and this great opportunity. And you know, at first you know, I was calling BS. Like, I mean, if it was this easy, everybody would be doing it.
Right.
And I mean, they were doing like 5 meetings a day. So I'm like, well, again, you got this many people coming through. It can't be all that if you got to keep recruiting all these people. But you know, I had a conversation with one of the guys there on the second interview, and did a little research and said, I mean, you know, it's definitely a legit opportunity. I mean, I see State Farm and all these other guys out here. You know, this was a different route. It was a small career shop right outside of Baltimore.
Mhm.
And you know, I went to the second interview. You know, I talked to the guy, got all my questions answered. He told me what the process was of, you know, get my pre-licensing and going ahead and taking my exam and getting my license. And I did it. You know, I failed my the first time I took the test. It's broken up in life and health
Mhm.
when I took it. And I failed the life portion. And this was hurtful. I failed by 1 point.
Mm.
And I looked at the woman and said, why would you even tell me that? Like, let me think I like was trash so I can go
Right.
home and study everything. Like when you fail by one, you just like, man, I should have picked B instead of C. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So I'm in turmoil because I don't really know like what I messed up on. So I can't really hone in on what I gotta go do. And because it was a commission-based job, I was basically unemployed. And I had to wait 2 weeks before I could go back and take the test. So, you know, at this point, I got married when I was in the military, got married, young, had a kid. And I'm like, okay, I can't be out here unemployed. So, I retook the test and thank God I passed. And that was the start of my career.
Wow. Wow. So now when you started, because you're in benefits now. You deal in benefit, you do individuals and benefits.
Yes.
So when you started, was it more on the individual side or was it more on the business side?
Individual.
So kitchen table.
Kitchen table.
Wow.
Only Black guy in the office. So,
wow.
they sent me to the hood.
Yeah.
And this was when there's a show on HBO that used to come on HBO called The Wire.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really popular back then. And I mean, a lot of crime, a lot of violence, a lot of death. And again, the only Black guy in the office. So they sent me to the hood, right? So I'm in the hood, I'm trying to talk to people about life insurance. And this was primarily burial insurance at that time. Okay. They did a lot of burial insurance and they did a lot of med subs, which was a weird mix. But anyway, I'm in these communities talking to people about life insurance and they're like, man, we don't buy life insurance. The city buries us. And I'm like, the city buries you? I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, Baltimore, bodies were dropping so fast in Baltimore, they were just burning the bodies and giving the family a box of ashes. So they didn't even believe in getting your basic burial insurance because they like the city going, take care of that. Even though it wasn't like a proper funeral or burial or anything, they just saw no value in it. So, I did that for a little bit. And after, having a couple of run-ins, I'm like, man, this ain't worth it. I got to get out of here. So, I went back and said, what else is there? I ain't trying to be risking my life every day for people that don't see value in what I'm doing. And then that's when I learned about Medicare supplements. So, still low income areas, but a completely different, demographic, completely different product. And that's where I think I cut my teeth and started making some money.
Okay. So basically going from a clientele that really didn't have I hate to say appreciation, but really an appreciation for it, really not even a concept of what, life insurance is really designed to do, right? Unfortunately, because when you say Baltimore and you say The Wire and you say the hood, I know what you're talking about, So and I know who you're speaking to. So you made that switch into kind of the senior market, people who are, hey, they're retirees. They need this, go works alongside the healthcare. This is something that is a necessity, as well. And being able to work in that clientele. Did you do that? So now I want to kind of go back. Were you still with the same organization? Did you start to branch out and go and say, hey, I'm about to form my own shop at this point? What was that kind of transition like?
Yeah, I was with the same organization. They had two different departments, one focused on the life, one on the Medicare product. So I stayed there. And then in 2006, I moved to Atlanta. And I had to, get my license in Atlanta. So I had to, take pause for a minute, go do my pre-licensing again and pass the exam. And thank goodness this time I passed my first time. But in 2005 and 2006, when I moved, Medicare Advantage was a thing. Prescription drug program had just become mandatory. So, all seniors had to get a plan or they would get penalized. So that was like wide open for people to at least have a conversation and see what their options were. And then follow right behind that came the Medicare Advantage plans. Mm-hmm. And, this was when Medicare Advantage, there were a ton of zero premium plans out, especially in the low income areas around the city of Atlanta. Zero premium, programs, low copays, low deductibles, and seniors were eating these things up. I mean, I had my best year to that point when I got to 2006, like by far, because it was so easy with these zero premium programs. With Medicare supplements, they got to cut a check, right? And it may be $200-$300 a month, depending on what they go with. Now I'm talking to people that like, you telling me that I don't have to pay, that $200 no more. And I'm like, no, but there are some copays and other things you're responsible for. But for the average person, it just made sense because it gave them control over their healthcare because they knew what their limit was. Like if I reach 6,000 out of pocket, that's my max or whatever. And man, I tell you, I ate good that year.
Right. Right. So look, The Medicare. Let's talk about the Medicare subs. I'm glad you kind of spoke to that. The Medicare subs, Medicare Advantage. This is a market space that I know there's regulations about it. You can only talk about it in certain capacities. But can you give kind of an overview of what that is? Like what is it to provide or to sell or to work in that space? What is it?
So for me, it really was the first time in my short career that I felt like I was helping people, right? Because they were really benefiting from having a top quality healthcare plan that covered their needs and was something financially they could afford. When I was working a lot of low income areas, a lot of people didn't have adequate coverage. Right. So here in Atlanta, there's a hospital called Grady. That's the big hospital here in Atlanta. So a lot of people will go to Grady to get their health care, but they would be there like 7-8 hours a day just to see a doctor or, 5 hours just to get a prescription. But that's all they knew. That was the state program that they were on to get their health care. Kind of like, the VA for some of us. Like we know the VA can be a nightmare. You'll be all so it was kind of like that for them. And they hated it, but that's all they knew. And being sick and being at the doctor's office for 8 hours around other sick people, that's not fun. So with these plans through major companies like United Healthcare and Humana, like they were able to get quality healthcare with recognizable companies. And it just made them feel good. It's like I don't have to use this Grady card and go see you all day. I can go over to, nice part of town and go to the Humana office or the United Healthcare, covered facility. And I mean, I really felt like it was the first time again that I was doing something that was really helping people.
Yeah. And specifically geared towards, like I said, a community that needs that help.
Yeah.
A market like in our seniors. One question, I know this is a big one. I know the difference. I know, of course, the difference, but for the people who are listening, what's the difference between Medicare and Medicaid?
So Medicaid is the low income provision for people that don't have, assets or, income. Is usually people that are on the lower end of the financial spectrum. So they get, things like welfare. Here in Georgia, they can get different things like food stamps. They get free, healthcare. But the problem with it, what I found out, and full disclosure, I haven't done Medicare in about 5 years. So I know there may be some regulation to change. But when I was doing it, a lot of doctors shied away from it because they didn't get paid the going rate for service. Right. If you were a Medicare doctor, you couldn't charge full price for a service rendered. So, a lot of doctors would only take a certain amount of Medicaid patients because they felt like, hey, I'm only getting 25 cents on the dollar, where if I don't take these clients, I can get the whole dollar. So there was some, there's some issues around that. But usually when you're getting Medicaid, your state is stepping in and helping you with additional benefits, where as if you didn't have it, you'd have to pay completely out of pocket for either a Medicare supplement or qualify for Medicare Advantage program. Georgia is a Republican state. When Obamacare came out, Georgia refused money and, hurt a lot of people on the low end of the income spectrum because they were forced to either try to apply for Medicaid, which is a really strenuous process. Like you got to tell them everything, you can't have X amount of assets or savings or whatever. And then if not, they weren't giving people, I can't remember what they're called. They the supplements towards the cost of insurance. So it was really messy here for a few years where people trying to figure out
the subsidies from ACA subsidies.
Yes. Yeah. It got really messy here in Georgia for a while.
So, and then on the Medicare side, you don't have to be low income to participate. There's just the age factor, because
based on how long you work. I mean, I got a son. My son is 22. He got his first real job a couple of years ago, and he came home just like every other kid, like, Dad, where's all this money going in my check? Like,
right,
$100. And I'm like, the Social Security, that's Medicare. So, I mean, 40 quarters, 10 years, whatever it is in your state, you work a certain period of time. And then when you retire, all that money that you've been paying into, I mean, they keep saying it's not going to be there when we retire, but, who knows? But it's supposed to be there and help supplement, your income and your health care after you retire.
Absolutely. 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 Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of distinguish the differences between the two, because I know that, I mean, shoot, when I was younger and I would hear Medicaid and Medicare, I'd be thinking they were the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I would imagine, like, when you work inside of this industry, you start to hear the differences in the coverages. But when you're out on the outside of it, it's so confusing. It seems and sounds so confusing, So I wanted to make sure, that we clarify, because if somebody's listening like Medicare and they're thinking it's Medicaid, just make sure we all on the
no, that's 100% accurate. I got out because the regulations just got crazy.
Yeah.
With Medicare. Unfortunately, a lot of, there was a lot of elder abuse where, because it was a zero premium product, people were just being told, hey, sign here. Just to show my manager I came out to the appointment, and they were actually signing, applications. So, I mean, it got really dirty here in Atlanta. And then CMS stepped in, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. They oversee all these products. And they put a lot of stuff in place, which was necessary, but it just became, too many hindrances for me. So, I kind of backed out and just pivoted and started just doing, traditional life and traditional health products at that point.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. How did you make the transition into, just building your own firm and, branching out into what you have today? I mean, now you have teams, you got distributions, you got systems, in place. That's not something to take lightly, because many people stay right in the producer lane forever and do well. Yeah. But to kind of start at that point and say, okay, now I'm going to leverage the distribution aspects of this business and really scale and build a full service firm. That's moving on a different kind of level. So how did that come about in your career?
Yeah. So the curtain was peeled back. Like I did really well. Like I said, when I moved to Atlanta, top 5 agent in the company. I got an all expense paid trip to Maui, the Grand Wailea Resort, one of the top 5 results. And, I got to meet some agents from different parts of the country, and we started talking money, and these guys didn't look like me, but the money they was making was ridiculous.
Right.
And, once you start having a couple of drinks, people are more apt to tell you, more than they would if they didn't. And when I got back, I got a promotion, and I was sitting down with my admin one day, and we were looking at the numbers. And I know what I was getting paid, because I was at a career shop at that point. So I came in like real low comp on the life insurance side. I had like a 50-60% commission, right? But I'm now that I get access to the books, I'm looking and like, well, the company's making 150% comp off of this. That's a hell of a disparage. Just
yeah.
So I started learning more about the business. And, I got the promotion. Like I said, I started looking at the books, and I said, well, I kind of feel like this is something that, now that I understand how it works, I can do myself, because nobody talked to me about ownership, right? We only make up about 8.5% of the industry. So typically we're the minority in the room. And again, not everybody's always open to sharing secrets, about how to advance in his career. I met a lot of guys who were 3rd, 4th generational insurance salesmen. I'm the first. I had nobody in my family to talk to about this.
For sure.
So, for me, it's like, okay, I kind of understand how it works. I've been doing it good enough. I know how to sell. I know how to recruit. I knew all the systems. And in 2011, I went independent. So, I put in my resignation. I was running 2 offices in Atlanta, doing fairly well. And in 2011, I went independent. And I'm gonna tell you, bro, like for 2 years, it was rough.
Yeah.
Because I'm very impulsive. Like if I feel it, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So, there was some tension between me and some of the other managers. Again, one of the few Black managers in the company, didn't always feel comfortable in certain environments. And, when I made the decision, I did it. And I went from having, full budget for leads and recruiting. We used to do lunch and learns at the steakhouses. I mean, we spend 10 grand easy a month on flyers and different things like that. So here I am independent, like, oh, yeah, I ain't got that no more. You know what I'm saying? So I can't afford a lunch and learn. So I got to figure out how to prospect. So it took me a while to get my footing, probably about a year and a half. But once I did, man, it was just straight up from there.
It was all. Let's stay on that, because, people oftentimes see the end result of someone's success, right? And don't see kind of the grind behind the grind, like those initial, kind of first steps. Even when you have some experience, making that transition, it's a big leap. It's a big leap. What do you think was the most difficult aspect for you going from, and maybe it was the budget, because I know, hey, you can swipe a card over here and over here, you're like, that's my card. So let me think about that. But if there was anything, if it was that, please expound. But if it was anything else, we'd love to hear. Like, what do you feel like was your greatest challenge, like just in that first year?
Initially, yes, it was the financial impact, right? And then that affects different parts of the business, because I'm a systems guy, right? I live in, I'm not a great sales guy. I always tell people, look, if I can do sales, I'm laid back, I'm chill. Like, I'm not the rah-rah guy. I'm not the hype dude, right? Some people just have a natural knack for sales. That's not me. So I had to have systems, and I had to follow those systems to get the results I desired. And when you don't have the finances, sometimes putting those systems in place could be really challenging. Like, I understood how to get a person to a lunch and learn, and from the lunch and learn to the actual appointment, and from the appointment to the sale, and all that kind of stuff. So I had a ton of systems in place that I operated when I was running my office, to now I really can't afford certain things. I mean, CRMs and power dialers and all that kind of stuff costs money. And I just took that stuff for granted. Like, I just went in the office and picked up the phone and, dial as long as I want to. Now it's like, hey, that thing costs money. VIOP was back in the day where you had all that, or you had the second cell phone line and make. So I struggled because I couldn't put certain systems in place, and there was more of me in the process that I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Right. But, I slowly started being able to put those systems in place. I found a way to use Excel, and create, spreadsheets for prospects and put them in different phases of the sales process until I was able to get a legit CRM. I eventually found out about Google Voice and some of these other free things that were out there that you can use to make phone calls. So I did a lot of research, and I just kind of bootstrapped it until I got to a place financially where I can put the real systems in place that I use to run my business today.
No, excellent. That was perfect, because that's what I wanted to hear. Like, hey, what was the difficulty, but also what did you do to modify, right? Because, there's a saying, winners always find a way,
right?
And you didn't say, well, okay, well, heck, I don't have these systems. Maybe I'm gonna have to just chuck this, throw it to the wind. You made those adjustments, say, hey, what can I do to kind of get me to where I need to go, while I'm working back to, putting what I'm accustomed to, in the mix of my business. At what point did you know you had the hang of it?
Let me tell you, it's funny. I share this story a lot. I think it was my first annuity sale. I had done, annuities in the career shop, but we always tag teamed them. So it was always me and another one of my managers in the office. We never did any annuities solo. So my first annuity case, I made like $11,000 in commission. And I had done, well, I kind of stacked up, commissions here and there off of my life business. But, when I made that 11,000, and I remember I shared this not too long ago. I was walking through the mall, and I was like, every store I went past, I was like, I could buy that. I can buy that. You know what I'm saying? It was like a feeling I had never had before to have that in one commission. I'm not talking about a week's worth of sales. I'm talking about one commission. Then I got the Bass Pro Shop, and I'm looking at guns and different things. And I turn the corner and there's boats. I'm like, I can't get a boat yet. I got to keep at this. And that was like my motivation. Like, I'm almost there. If I can just keep doing what I'm doing, I'll be back for one of these boats. And that was kind of it for me. It's like the first time in my life, I'm somewhere where I can pretty much buy anything I want and not have to worry about, if I swipe the card, is it going to go through? You know what I'm saying? So for me, that was like, all right, I really see the opportunity here. And that opened up another part of the business that I hadn't really paid a lot of attention to, because, a lot of guys are white elephant hunt when it comes to annuities. They want that big deal, and they'll bypass all the low hanging fruit that makes you daily money to go after that. And I never wanted to be that guy, but I did see that, if I add this to the portfolio in a smart way, I can 10x my income real quick.
Absolutely. Yeah, those annuities, that's
game changer.
Something else. I didn't know, until not too long ago. I was like, wow, tell me something, but so now, kind of getting to this point, and starting to build out your firm, comfortable. Where does SOBA come into play? Society of Black Agents. How did that become birthed? I spoke with Shay previously, and she kind of shared, her version of the origin. But I love to hear your story and your origin, because her side was you called her to be a part of this. So how was it birthed?
So right before COVID, we switched over to telesales for my brokerage, right? I live in Atlanta. Atlanta's got like the third worst commute in the nation. I got tired of driving up and down 85 for people to no-show me, one-leg me, cancel, whatever. And I'm like, man, there's got to be a better way. So probably about 6 months prior to COVID, we had switched all of our systems up. We were doing telesales, calling from home. And then COVID hit. So people were calling me saying, hey, man, we can't be out in the field. I know that you're doing that telesales thing. Tell me how that works. I want to see if I can switch my brokerage over to start doing that. So I was having meetings like every day with dozens of agents, right? And they were like, man, this is dope. I wish there was a place that we can like share information and stuff like this, because there's not a lot of, rooms out there that look like us where we can share resources and information and help each other build. So, it's crazy because initially I didn't want to do it. I reached out to some other, Black groups. I'm like, look, man, I got about 300 agents in my pocket right now that want a home. They don't want to be recruited. They're not looking for contracts. They're just looking for, relationships, opportunities, network.
Yeah.
And like people were straight up telling me, no, not interested. And that was the first time where I really focused on us as Black agents to build something like that. Right. I that was never on my radar. My circle was Black. So, I just think, hey, Black people want to work together. But I got shot down like 3 times. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. That's interesting. I never, people were very protective of what it is that they had. And, I'm unapologetically Black. Right. So I think I made some people uncomfortable with the approach, like, hey, let's build something for us. And you know how it is in this industry. Sometimes you got to be aligned with carriers in order to get certain contracts and things like that. Mm-hmm. We don't have, Black carriers anymore. Atlanta Life is gone. North Carolina Mutual shut its doors. So, after, like being told no 3 times, I'm like, okay, well, I'll build it myself.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do it by myself. And, Shay and I had done some work. And I really like the way she moves. She got a really strong family unit here in Atlanta, done a lot of stuff on the pro-Black tip. And, I got to meet her family. We had, like I said, we did a couple of events together, and I hit her up. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about putting together, a platform. I didn't even know what it was at that point. I was like, look, we just need something where we can come together. And she was like, well, if I don't call you back like in 3 days, that just means I'm just, I got too much going on. I called her back 2 days later, like, what's your answer? Because you've interviewed her. Shay's dope. I mean, I love our Black women, and when they get at it, they at it. You know what I'm saying? She helps keep me in line because I be all over the place. So, she's like, all right, well, what do you want to do? What tell me what you want to do. And I just want to create a safe space for Black agents to connect and grow. That's it. Connectivity, I think, is really important. Opportunities to network without somebody trying to backdoor you and make you sign with their organization, their company, their contract, whatever.
Yeah.
And, growth. Like, there's so much money to be made in this industry. But unfortunately, I talk to so many Black agents that are struggling. Like, I talk to agents that haven't even cracked 50,000 yet and have been at this 10 plus years. Like, and it blew my mind. So I'm like, okay, what can we do, like, to help these agents really make money? Because it's all good serving your community and, having a license or whatever. But remember, I sat in rooms with guys, when I was running my career shop, they would fly us down to Tampa once a month. All the agency managers, we would call general managers. So there's like 55 of us in a room. They had 55 offices across the country. And the guys that lived in Florida, they would pull up, I tell you no lie, Lamborghinis, Ferraris. We would go to the Hard Rock on Friday night after our Friday night meeting in Tampa. And these guys would pull out 10 stacks, all Black, roulette.
They making 50 grand a week.
But here we are, agents that like are dedicated to this career path and are only making 50,000. I'm like, okay, well, what are we missing? Right. And I said, I want to pull back the curtain like it was done for me, and anything I can share, and that's how we are in a group. I mean, if it's lead companies, if it's contracts, if it's systems, if it's marketing, like whatever we can share, we try to bring people that have something to offer our community to help them, level up. I mean, we had you on the podcast and, it's just like, we got the resources. We just got to get out of the mentality of, I got to keep it to myself. There's enough for all of us to eat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, and shout out to you, man. I copped your book. I copped your book the other day. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you got people like that that's a part of your network, it motivates and inspires you. I'm like, damn, I need to write me a book. I've been talking about writing a book for 2 years. My man Rod done wrote a book. You know what I'm saying? It encouraged me to do what I got to do to get on my grind. You know what I'm saying? So having that community of people that are all moving in the same direction, that are encouraging, supporting, sharing, quote unquote, secrets, that's what we wanted to do. And we've done it. I mean, we almost at 1,000 in the Facebook group right now. We got Instagram and we started a podcast. And I mean, real talk between, our social media platforms and the other agency groups that we're connected to, we're touching about 3,000 Black agents right now.
It's amazing.
And again,
it's a great community too. I'm in the Facebook group. It's a lot of great content that comes through with different webinars, resources, people just, sharing information and knowledge. Like you said, just there's no utility attached.
Yeah, we did a 6-figure webinar for free at the end of last year because I'm like, every agent in this industry should be able to make at least 6 figures.
Yeah.
I mean, and when we really break down the numbers, like 6 figures ain't what it used to be. 100,000 ain't what it used to be.
No.
And when you break down the numbers, it's really doable. It's just a matter of, I mean, we broke it down to 8,000 a month. How many sales you need, how many phone calls you need to make, how many leads you need to buy, all that kind of stuff. Cost of acquisition for a client, so how much you got to pay to get a client. Like, we gave away the playbook. It was like, here, like, go do it. Like, if you need help, hit us up, DM us, message us, whatever. We want to see us win, because that not only impacts our community when it comes to, us having professionals out there helping people growing up, it helps us as well.
That's right.
Like I love your book because when you look at those who came us before us in the insurance industry, they were pillars in their community.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Lonzo Herndon, the A.G. Gaston. I mean, Lonzo, he built a hotel in Atlanta for people that were traveling through the South and couldn't stay anywhere. He wasn't just an insurance agent. I mean, he housed other Black businesses because nobody else would let them, rent space.
Boom, boom. Listen, that was really one of the catalysts behind the book, to really talk about how impactful we were and could and can be, in our communities, because the conversation we talk about, hey, by the block, yes, real estate, very powerful, but behind that real estate, it has to be insured. In that community, if there's a base of like what you're saying, hey, look, understanding life insurance and how to utilize it, then that's something that can perpetuate an entire community. If people understand estate planning, if they understand how to set a trust up, they can build this, they can build their own infrastructure. The money is continuously coming back in, and generation after generation after generation, it grows. I want to ask you, because it is a hot topic now, right? Going back to generational wealth. But what I think that many people have a hard time digesting is that it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. What do you say? How do you explain that to people that, look, even getting into the industry, right? It's like you said, agents coming in, that means that if they're not cracking 100,000, which is not a lot today. Right. Okay. If they're not cracking 100,000, that means that they're not able to be effective in educating maybe the people they want to educate. How do you communicate the fact that, look, this process takes time, whether, hey, look, you're building as an agent or you're a client who wants to establish something, for the future. It's not going to happen overnight. How are you communicating that?
So for the agent, I'm not one of those guys that say you got to go independent or you got to go career or you got to sell this. Like, you got to find your lane.
Yeah.
And what I tell an agent is there are things that you can do to speed up the process, right? There's some things we can't control. You got to get a license, which requires you to get a 40-hour course, depending on where you live. You got to take the exam. You got to pass it. You got to get your contracts, your background. We can't do anything about that, right? But if there's certain things that if you do can speed up your process, one, find a mentor in this business. I wish 10 times over that I really I would have been able to really find a mentor. I mean, truth be told, it's only been maybe 5 years where I've had like business mentors that have been able to help me grow my business. If I would have had that early on, there's no telling where I would be. So, connect with people that are farther along the path than you. Don't try to figure it all out yourself. Yeah, there's some things you can study and prepare for. But for me, if I can find somebody that says, hey, when you get here, go left instead of going right, instead of me bumping my head trying to go that way, I'm going to listen to them, right? So, that's what I always tell people is, try to find you mentors, people that have been in the business longer than you, that are willing to help you on your journey. For the customer, the client, the prospect, same thing. We as Black people didn't get into our financial situation overnight, and that's a whole nother conversation, if we want to go back and talk about how we got here. The point is that we're here. And, just like it took us a while to get here, it's going to take us a while, depending on what you're willing to do to get out. But the same thing I tell the agent, I tell them there are ways that you can shorten that process. And the simplest way is to make sure you and your family have some life insurance. So at the bare minimum, you're not leaving them in debt, right? Yeah. But I don't care if all you do is get $10,000 for a funeral, to make sure that you're not putting them in a hole to figure that out. Because the funeral director don't care about your intentions. They don't care what you planned on doing or what you were trying to build. They know they got a body in the bag. And if you want it in the ground, it's going to cost you 10, 15, 20,000. How you going to pay me? So, no fish fries and GoFundMe's and all that kind of stuff. Like, there are certain things that we can take responsibility for. And I think we need to do that. Like, it's easy to come up with an excuse on why we don't, but there are certain things we can do. And I always tell people, the things you can control them. There are certain things that we can do to better position ourselves as agents, and consumers can better position themselves as consumers. Pay a little more on that car insurance to make sure that if something happens to it, you get a new one. It's easy to be cheap and be like, no, I'm paying the state minimum because they allow you to, and then you wreck that car. I'm like, oh, you know what? Now I can't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? So, things we can control, and, connect with people that can help you do so.
No doubt. Absolutely. Absolutely. What, you got a lot going on, man. I mean, look, you are an inspiration for somebody who's coming in the business, even for myself, I see how you move, and, you not only on the business side, but also on the community side, and really just adding to just the industry as a thought leader and a change agent. What keeps you motivated now?
I understand the responsibility, the assignment now, right? When you have 1,000 people that look to you as a leader in a certain space, it kind of forces you to want to be better, right? Mm-hmm. And we grew quick. I mean, when we were at Black Friday in Atlanta, we were at 200 people in the Facebook group. I mean, less than a year later, we're already over 1,000, and we're really not even marketing that heavy. I mean, a lot of this is word of mouth.
Yeah.
So I think when you get to a certain position, the responsibility of that position almost forces you to want to do better. Like, I legit, when I look in the group and somebody asks a question, like, hey, I'm struggling, does anybody have recommendations for what lead company I should use? I'm really thinking about that. Like, I care, I really want to find, and we're, as men, we're wired that way anyway. We see a problem, we try to fix it, but I'm really looking like, these people are in my group asking for help. Like, I gotta help them. So, me and the staff and the team, we're always having conversations about, what more can we do? And it's hard, because it's an online group. We can't help everybody. I mean, we're still growing as a team. We're only a handful of people, but I think that's what keeps me going, is like the responsibility of it. I want to see, these agents win. These agency owners, I want to see them win.
Absolutely. And because the rising tide, raises all ships.
Absolutely.
So if everybody's winning, then everybody's winning, right?
Yeah.
So what's the goal now? So, we talked about, kind of coming up in Brooklyn now, going through your journey, military, starting in sales, kind of getting into the business, finding your way, building your own business, now growing and, running, you got agents and you got a whole system running. You expanded into an outreach with an organization, large membership base. What's the goal now? Like, what's the dream? What's the big picture for T Priesthood?
Yeah, so I want to create a plug and play insurance opportunity that's going to help a person that's non-licensed get into the industry and make 6 figures within 6 months. For me, it's about the impact on an individual's family and their community, right? One without the other, to me, doesn't make sense. It's cool if everybody in the neighborhood knows you as the insurance guy, but if you got to go home and you struggling, that defeats the purpose. It's cool if you're making a lot of money, but if you ain't helping your community, then that defeats the purpose. So I've learned a lot. I mentioned Ethos and Plum and some of these other companies that are tech companies that have gotten to the insurance space that have streamlined the process.
Yeah.
I mean, people can do e-apps without even talking to you. I mean, it's just the way the system is set up. So, on the brokerage side, I just want to create an opportunity for, people to take advantage of systems that I developed or been able to tap into that helps them, accelerate their career in this industry, exponentially.
So plug and play.
Yeah, plug and play. I mean, here's the playbook if you're willing to do this. So I've been kind of working, testing it with a few agents here or there. But on the broker side, that's my goal. And that way you can work with who you want to work with. I mean, I don't only sell to Black people. I buy Black and sell to the rest. You know what I'm saying? If somebody sees me online, they see one of my ads, I ain't gonna be like, hey, no, I ain't selling to you. That's stupid. No other community does that.
Right.
But because I've been able to take advantage of some of these other systems that don't take as much as my time, I can focus where I want to focus on small Black businesses and, my community and things like that. So that's what it is on that side. And then, SOBA, we just had a conversation the other day. The big thing in our industry, the young people say receipts. $1 million roundtable is huge in our community. We want SOBA agents to be represented in the $1 million roundtable. We want to say we put 10 agents in the $1 million roundtable this year based on, our training and different things that we've done. So, we said we want to create a space for Black agents to connect and grow. The growth is really what we're focused on right now. Putting us in spaces where we're more represented. We got to get that 8.5% up. But in order to do that, we have to stop talking about insurance ain't sexy or, it's a scam or whatever. We got to change the whole way we look at it. So,
absolutely,
we have an event that we call the SOBA Blackout. And our whole focus is rebranding the Black agent. Like, what should a Black agent in 2023 look like? You know what I'm saying? On social media, in the community, how they move, you know what I'm saying? Like, really taking a look at what that should look like and making sure that's the image that we're projecting out there, because young people ain't gonna mess with us if we out here being corny. I mean, they can make 100,000 on TikTok. You think they're gonna want to do what we do if we don't show them a way that's creative and they can use their talents and gifts to do so? That's what we're trying to do, is like go back to what it used to be when you talked about the insurance man in the neighborhood, the business owner, the giant. That's what we're trying to get back to. So for me, like I said, we're just focused on, as far as, SOBA and other organizations we're partnering, we're helping Black agents win.
Absolutely. Well, brother, you are definitely one of them. You know what I mean? Like one of those, individuals who, 10, 15, 20 years from now, I'm gonna say 15, 20 years. I know you got a lot of runway left, let's say 20, 30, 40 years from now, Cass will be like, T Priester, man, he set this up, man. He really kind of laid a path out for us. So that's exciting. That's a legacy, man. Look, I wanted to, just have a few words from you on someone, who might be looking to join this industry, because I know you have passion for people who are coming into the space and want to see them be successful. What would you tell someone, kind of entering the business, or maybe even just thinking about entering this business? Maybe they are on TikTok right now, they're doing their TikTok thing, but maybe they're watching this video. Maybe they saw a snippet or a clip, on YouTube, or, maybe they came across, SOBA on Facebook. Man, what is that? What would you tell that person about this industry or entering this industry?
For an industry that's been around as long as it has, it's still really wide open for people that have passion and creativity, right? So, what I try to tell people, again, my son is 22. I'm trying to get him interested into the business. He's got a new passion for IULs that he just found out how they work, about a month or so ago. So I've been connecting him with people. But I'm like, I'll be your authentic self and let that come to, regardless of what it is you do, right? When I came into this industry, I had to kind of hide who I was in order to advance, right? That's no longer the case. Like, allow yourself to be the authentic version of you, because one, that's going to attract your client, right? So I missed out on a lot of business not being authentic, trying to be something in that I could never amount to being, right? So, you know, what I tell people, like I said, just come in, be your authentic self, find out where you fit in, and just niche down and grow from that point, right? Again, I'll repeat, find you a mentor, find you people that have been in this business longer than you, that are willing to share the secrets of success with you. And if you do that, the money's going to come. I mean, it's a top millionaire making industry. I think financial services is number 3 when it comes to creating, you know, millionaire.
Number 1.
Is it number 1?
Number 1, financial services, financial services, tech, and real estate.
There you go. Like, so the money's there.
Yeah.
Right. All you got to do is find out how to get it. And, you know, being your authentic self, to me, with the help of mentors, is the quickest way to the bag in this industry. The money is there. Do a record payouts in insurance last year. You know, since COVID, more people have been buying and wanting to have conversations about mortality.
That's right.
It's a great opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, look, brother, thank you so much, you know, for taking this time. People, they want to get in contact with you. They want to find out about Noble. They want to find out about SOBA. How can the people reach out to you and connect with you and just stay in the mix with you?
Sure. I'm T Priest everywhere. Every social media platform, TPRIESTER. So just add me. I'm struggling on TikTok and some of these other platforms. I'm trying to keep up with these young people, but if you put T Priest in there, that's where I am. The website is igotnoble.com. Sober is wearesober.org. Hit me up, man. Anything I can do to help us, you know, as agents and agency owners grow, I'm here for it.
Hey, we got to reach out to my man T Priest. Look, all you got to do before everybody else had the AI pictures, T Priest had the AI. He had the cool animation picture. That's like the dopest like icon image on your Instagram. That's nice. And that's before everybody got on the AI craze.
Yeah. I got to update that. The grades then come in, you know, all that. People looking at me like I'm capping right now. Like, nah, bro, that's catfish. You don't look like that no more. So. All
good. But look, man, thank you for the time. I appreciate you. You know, love everything that you're doing. You know, we always support. Appreciate just being who you are, man. You know, the example as a businessman, the example as an advocate. You know, for this industry, this space. What you're doing with the podcast, you know, they're dynamic, man. If you're down, especially if you're down in the Atlanta area, you gotta connect. You gotta connect with T Priest down there. So Thank you once again for taking this time. And for those who are listening, maybe you heard something. Maybe, you know, you have a background where you're coming, you know, from a place where you didn't know, you know, which way you were gonna go. Maybe, hey, you're in the military, you're getting ready to get out. Maybe you're in a sales career, you're looking for something that, you know, can maybe give you the opportunity to impact the community on a larger level. Or maybe you're just an agent in the space and you're like, man, you know, maybe you got your license, you let it lapse, and, you know, you heard something today that made you think you need to go back, and maybe you should get a license. Until the next time, peace.